Hi, I'm Michael Maher, CEO of OnePassport. Today I wanted to talk about the correlation between vaccinations and testing, serology, as it's properly called. Um, we'll use another industry and another vaccination or combination as an example. So in healthcare, if you work in healthcare, chances are you need to have a current hepatitis B vaccination. So how it works is in year one, I will get a hepatitis B vaccination. And that's going to diminish over time. It's an antibody count in my blood is what they're tracking. So in year three, I'll have a serology, a test, which says how many antibodies are in my blood. Chances are it's still okay. So in year five, I'll have another test. And somewhere between year five and year seven for most people, the antibodies will drop below a certain count and I'll have to go and be vaccinated again, a booster shot. So that's how vaccinations and tests work together. Combined, they're called immunizations. They boost your immune system. So if we circle back to COVID, 12 months ago, everything was about testing because we didn't have vaccinations. So we were testing people using a system called PCR, where you went to a testing site, they put the thing up your nose and the back of your throat, and they sent that sample away to a laboratory or a pathology lab, who then grew it so they'd actually have enough that they could test for the signs of COVID in your system. And then most people got an SMS that said, "You're negative." Thank goodness. But then most of 2021, we've been fixated on the vaccination rollout. AstraZeneca, then Pfizer, now Moderna, etc. And so though we talk about how many tests were happening yesterday in Victoria or New South Wales, etc., the count and a lot of things tied to the count, that number is vaccinations. Now, once we reach certain percentages, New South Wales opened last week, Victoria should open next week, and they're all based on percentages of vaccinated. But now the conversation is starting to swing back from vaccinations back to testing. Why? What is the correlation here? If we're all vaccinated, what's the point of a test? So we're moving, as I said last week, we're moving from system A to system B. We're going from, we had lockdowns and different rules based on the number of positive people in society, to saying now, because we're all vaccinated, we're probably all going to get positive at some stage or another. But the numbers we'll focus on is how many people are filling up hospital beds. Because of the high vaccination rate, even though we'll have positive people, it should be like a shitty flu rather than something that ends you up in hospital. But in our society, there are people who are still very vulnerable, typically children and the aged or the sick. So there'll be certain industries, like if you want to go to aged care and visit grandma, you'll need to be vaccinated and you'll probably need to have a rapid antigen test done at the door. Unlike the other PCR test where they sent it away to the pathology lab and 24 hours later, this whole circular route, you finally got an answer. A rapid antigen test is actually done by the person themselves, their home kits, but also ones which, just with a bit of training, they're a bit faster. And they can actually do them at the door of the location, like an aged care home or a hospital. And it takes 20 minutes. They drop it on a form, and like a pregnancy test, it'll tell you right then and there. Certainly a different part of your body fluid that they're tracking though. So going to visit someone in aged care, chances are you'll have a rapid antigen test. Going in a hospital as a patient or going to visit someone in hospital, you'll have a rapid antigen test. Because even if they're vaccinated, they're immunocompromised. They've got a weak immune system. So you need to boost your system, or definitely not go in there if you're positive, because that might not affect you. It could kill them. Children and childcare matters is another one. Because the current guidelines are that under 12 you can't get vaccinated for COVID, if you're going to a childcare centre to pick up your kids, work in aged care, work in childcare, volunteer in childcare, etc., chances are you're going to need to have not only be double vaccinated, but also rapid antigen testing. That's the new reality. Another one is travel. Anyone who wants to enter Australia. So we're going to have a whole lot of people who are positive, but we don't want more of them coming in. You know, it's like a herd immunity. If we want this many people who are positive to that many not, we don't want to keep adding here by having a whole heap of people arrive who are positive and potentially positive with a different strain of COVID. So we'll test everyone coming into Australia, be they international students or tourists. And chances are those kind of testing, they're going to all need 4 or 5 tests in a row. Using you and traveling out of Australia will be the same. You'll probably need to have a test within 72 hours before you fly. There may be one at the airport or when you arrive at your destination, then one when you leave, and then one after you've been back in Australia for 2 days. So there's at least 4, if not 5 in a row that you're going to need to have. How are we going to track those things? Because if you're just saving on your phone, and then you go on holidays and you take 2,000 happy snaps on your iPhone while you're away, you're going to lose them and not be able to line them up and say, negative, 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 let me in the country, let me go back to work. So how are we going to track that? I highly recommend download OnePassport app. It's free to you. You can easily save them in the immunisation register so that if you are called upon to show evidence that you have done your tests and they're all negative, you've got it there ready to go. Because you're going to need it in all different aspects of society. And if you go to aged care or healthcare or somewhere and you get one done, you might as well save it and be able to use it and say, I do get regular tests. I am proactive in this space. Take care.